What's up, what's up, what's up? I am about to experiment with an art project and I decided I would document it in case it comes out super dope. So what I'm gonna be doing is completely transforming this table. It's super ugly, it's super destroyed. And then I will be testing an idea that I have on a canvas as well. So I'm gonna be doing both of those things simultaneously because they both require a lot of waiting and drying time, so I can multitask. And yeah, I'm gonna be showing y'all the process and then hopefully it comes out dope. So unfortunately, my microphone I ordered will not be here in time, so I apologize for the shitty quality, but I put the legs back on this table. That was the first step. You don't have to do that though if you have a table and your legs aren't on it. I don't know why they would be off of it. Anyways, whatever. I then measured the table to see how much stuff I will need for it. I then sanded it so I could put this primer on. This is called xoxo. I'm pretty sure that's how you pronounce it. And it basically makes the table more like adhesive or whatever. It makes the surface cleaner to work with. I then spray painted some of it white. And I did that to just create more depth in the table for the layers that I'm going to be adding next. While I waited, I then worked on this canvas that is just random. I was just playing with it. Usually when I paint, I just play with a bunch of stuff and I'll play with it for sometimes up to a year before I'm finally like, okay, I'll just kind of be done with it and it's finished. That's just how I work. I then taped off some of the table so that way if it was dripping, it would have like a cleaner drip basically, which ultimately didn't really matter, and I realized that after taping two sides and only taped two sides. I then read the directions. Go me. First time I ever did this, actually first two times I ever did this. Whoa, I did not read the directions. I was so impatient. That's something that I've really been working on lately, are my patience, and it did not come out good. It got so bad so fast. It escalated so quickly. So I learned from that, and I actually read the directions. I measured adequately, and then I started mixing the stuff. So this is called resin or epoxy. There are various kinds of resin and epoxy. There's resin and epoxy. We're going to just call it resin. Actually, we'll just call it epoxy. Okay, so there's various forms of epoxy. I mixed white in it. That's what you see there. Anyways, with certain epoxy, you need this type of mask. This mask is very thick. This is like 3 filters in that mask to keep my lungs and everything internally safe from the chemicals of this epoxy. It's very, very toxic. There are some kinds that are specifically for arts or craft purposes that are non-toxic, which I just don't have that right now. But basically, you have to mix it a lot, like 12 minutes or something for each time you mix it. I added white to the first 2 batches that I did. So you saw the white in the first one and then you see white in this one. Even though I painted the table white, the epoxy can kind of have like a yellowish tint to it, and I wanted it to be white because we're going for a white marble slab look. So the dope thing about this epoxy is that it kind of has like this translucent look to it. It's not super opaque, so it has depth when you add multiple layers, and you can see through ever so slightly depending on how much color you add to the epoxy. You can still see through it and see the previous layers. So I then added gray. These are supposed to be the cracks and the like little detailed pieces that are in the marble. I used a stir stick to make it thin and skinny, and then I took more cracks. That's what I'm doing, more cracks. So that's what we're doing. Oh, then we're using a blowtorch The blowtorch is to get out all of the air bubbles. You can either use a blowtorch or a heat gun. Honestly, a heat gun is better because you're less likely to scorch your epoxy. Mixing up more, I'm doing another layer. This is on another day. There's a dark corner in the back that I fricked up on, and I was really not happy with it because I've never seen marble that looked like that in that corner. So I made the epoxy white again so I could kind of mute and correct what I was trying to fix in the back corner there. And again, that's something that's super dope about this is you can just continue to layer and layer and layer it, and it really, you can do something completely messed up and literally add 2 more layers and no one would ever know. So that's really dope. Added a ton of white, and that's what I'm doing there. Use your toe to start and stop the timer because you have to have a timer to stir it for 12 minutes and your hands are in gloves and full of epoxy, so that's not going to work. I then made a super opaque white batch to go over that rough little corner over there, fix that guy up, and then after I added this layer, you can kind of see how it's starting to look a little bit more marble-ish, aside from that corner. That corner was just really driving me nuts. But you see how it has the depth to it, and it kind of looks like those things are layers in the stone, or cracks in the stone, essentially, which is what we want. I'm going to do this again, and now that I've experimented with it, I have a little bit better of an idea how to work with it and to get the look that I was initially going for. So I'm really excited to try it again because I feel like I'll make it better. There are certain things, obviously, that I wish I would have done differently, but it was also my first time, so that is okay. We're about 2 more layers in at this point. I added that whole white opaque layer, and now I'm adding another layer of a gray to get those cracks going and kind of follow the lines that I already followed, because usually there's kind of like a pattern in marble. Whatever the pattern is, like it's a random pattern, but it's a similar pattern throughout the whole thing. I then added a darker layer to kind of outline, shadow that gray. Oftentimes those cracks have multiple shades in them. They get darker and lighter in some areas, and we want this to look kind of realistic, so, or very realistic in theory. We're gonna just add those in and then start to accentuate the cracks a little bit. The thing is, with this darker gray, I got a little trigger happy with it and went a little nuts over here on this, what side is that, right hand side, and then once I was done playing with that, I wasn't really liking it that much. I was like, okay, this pattern doesn't match the left hand side pattern. Referring back to what I just said about patterns, you don't see that in marble. So if you're gonna have a crazy marble, it needs to be crazy throughout the whole thing. Or if you're gonna have a simple marble, it should be simple throughout the whole thing. Unless, you know, you're just going for whatever look you want, and by all means do you, boo. But that's not what I was going for. So after that, I was like, this isn't gonna work. And I decided to add a ton of a very light white to the table again. However, I didn't really wait for it to dry before adding that, which I should have done. So then once I added it, here I'm just going in and I'm filling in that spot and making that color translate across the entire thing. You'll see what I did though. This is where I fucked up. I just dumped it on there, and then it turned into literally mush. It just became mush over there. However, I was able to use it to my advantage later. There is a saying in the arts and in the crafts community is that there is no such thing as a mistake, because you can always use what you did to enhance it or to just make it more unique. So also I learned from that. You can't be mad at a lesson, okay? Then I tried to blend it out and just make it match the other side, because you see the other side is much more simple and that side is very complex. It just doesn't go. So I added more. No, Jade, stop. Damn it. I'm cringing. So I added more. That's what I did there. And fortunately, with like, I want to say one more layer of a pretty opaque white, and then one more layer mixed into that of a very light white. I don't even know if that makes sense. Clear, translucent, whatever. I was able to keep that pattern translating across the entire table, which you will see it at the end. I'm going in with a fork to try to get the lines to do what I want them to do. A fork is sometimes easier with a stir stick, or like a toothpick or something, because it's a finer tip. And using the heat gun to get out the air bubbles, you have to use a heat gun or a blowtorch or you will get air bubbles, and that's not cute, boo. Then this is how it came out. It looks like marble, kind of. I mean, honestly, for my first try, she's not too bad. I definitely would do things differently, and honestly, if I wanted to, I could correct this entirely now that I've done the experiment and I know how to do it. I think that I would be able to correct this and create exactly what I want over this layer if I added 2 or 3 more layers, but honestly, it's not that deep to me. Like, it came out fine. It was an experiment. It was a first run, and I would rather put that time into a new project, and maybe in a year or 6 months, if I feel like touching her up and making her exactly what I intended for her to be, then I can always do that. Again, that's what's super dope about epoxies. You can just continue to add the layers. So you can see all my multiple layers in there, and yeah, she came out looking kind of like marble. Hey, from IKEA to trash to a marble slab. Go off. That's all. If you want any more DIYs, leave me a comment what you want to see, and I'm gonna get crafty with you. All right, goodbye.